Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David Waldas here with Nick Musica. And our episode today is on getting hijacked by other people's emotional truth, getting hijacked by other people's wants from us. And so actually the topic is not getting hijacked. And it's funny as I was just closed my eyes tapping in for our theme, and I saw like this big wave kind of coming across, and it was almost like it was like this wave. It looked like, I mean, it was like an ocean wave, but it looked like this wave of energy just coming across the planet, coming across humanity. And the way that I received that information was that so many of us are being asked to get really, really clear. Like there's this energy running through the world right now, and we talk about themes, right? What are the themes that are happening? But there's this theme now of being done getting hijacked. Meaning that the way other people want us to be, or the way other people feel about how we're being, that we're just no longer willing, or we're called to no longer be willing to play along. And what that really means is choosing our truth, choosing our power, choosing where we want to come from, and doing it in a way where if we're not already unapologetic about it, that's where we're going with it. And it doesn't mean that we're not sorry that it's hard for other people, but it does mean that we're not sorry that we're doing it. And that, I think that piece right there where people are sorting through in their heart is giving themselves permission to do what they know is right for them, to give themselves permission to be in their power. Because the moment we do that, something happens to the folks around us that have had a lot of control over how we operate and that influence they've had for how we're going to show up or not show up, what we're going to do with our lives or not do with our lives. And when we move into a place where those controls just aren't hitting us anymore, or we become empowered enough inside of ourselves, or this wave of energy that's hitting us right now has empowered us to go, God, I know what my life needs to look like. I know how I need to move forward. I know how it needs to look for me. And I know other people aren't going to like it. And that's okay. And that's just the reality of it. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, David Waldas. How are you?
Great. I'm moving forward, regardless
Great.
of
Awesome.
what people want.
Awesome. Awesome. I think this maps to what we're talking about. You and I met in 2017-ish. And you ran me through a personal behavioral assessment analysis, and we were doing some coaching, and I kept asking for homework. And you're like, well, go try these things at work. Go try it out. And I came back and I'm like, nothing worked. It just like nothing happened. I didn't get the result I was looking for. And you're like, well, now you know. And I'm like, I know what? Well, now you know you're not in alignment with your job. And I was like, oh shit. Because it wasn't playing along anymore. Like it was fine up until it wasn't fine. And then it became someone else's agenda.
Yeah. And you became aware of it. You didn't realize before you were playing along with something that was not even parallel to what you wanted.
That's right.
It was at a different trajectory.
Yeah. It's all of a sudden it was, if this was your destination on a map, it was like, where's that 45-degree angle? That's where you need to go. Right. But we're going this way. Like this doesn't due north doesn't feel good anymore. Like this feels better.
Yeah, they're due north.
That's right. Yeah. And so there's a piece that comes along, and even then there was a piece of like, well, the company looking to keep me, and at when it finally came time to leave, and it was like, no, it just wasn't even a thought of wanting to stay. It was just over. It was just done, and it was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And that's a mild version of it, because that was really not, I mean, that could pull on financial string triggers, right?
And it's usually when we have to make a big, bold move there's all of our normal controls, the things that keep us playing along that become a part of it, right? And so for you,
Yeah.
like that, the financial, the stability, the
Yeah.
safety,
Yeah.
huge part of how you make decisions.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's where when you had to make the big choice and go, I'm choosing me, I'm choosing my own trajectory rather than the one that, you know, is requested of me that I know doesn't feel good, that I know isn't right for
That's
me.
right.
I'm
That's
going to
right.
have to deal with all the things that I think keep me stable and the
Yeah.
things that I've connected to stabilize off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's always the theme. And it's funny, it's uncanny, right? Because whatever those things are, that's what we experience. If it's relationships, that's where we get the challenge. If
Yeah.
it's financial, that's where we get the challenge. You know,
Yeah.
and it's proportional to what level of stability we feel off of each of these different points in our life is how big they show up and where the points are that we need to overcome. And it's really kind of fucked up, right? Because we're like, why couldn't it be on the stuff that's easier for me? Why is it that when I claim my power, it has to be what I'm challenged with is the things that are the most stabilizing to me or destabilizing when they're not there. But it like because this is no joke, right? Like we have to, you know, it's making sure that we're digging deep, and then the moment we make that decision, the universe
Yeah.
goes, "Are you sure?" Every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
like
Right.
with I've never seen it not say, "Are you sure?" And so it's something like, "Oh, I'm leaving this job. It's not working for me." Oh, great. Well, here's a job offer. We'll pay you twice as much. And you do the same thing that made you miserable here. Um, would you like that? And then we got to go, like, I finally got the strength up to say no to this bullshit. And now it got twice as enticing in the area that where I feel the
Mm.
most stabilizing.
Mm.
And am I going to say no to it?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. What did you just say? Why can't it be easy? Why can't it be the give me a layup every time? Come
Yeah,
on.
give me the one like why don't you make me sacrifice the thing that I don't care that much about instead of the thing I care the most about?
Right. Right.
Like, well, no skin in the game, no game, you know?
Yeah. 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 We just came back from a 3-day event in La Jolla, and you just remind me of one of the a Bo Eason and team event storytelling, personal storytelling, and you just reminded me of one of the phrases Bo said, which was like great people, men, women are not made great people. It's the situations that make them great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
How the world's made is not through great people, it's made through demanding situations, right?
right, thank you. Yeah, so the layups, like they don't do anything for you.
No skin in the game.
You could lay up all day, but you're laying up all day, right? There's
Yeah,
there's no one there's
yeah,
no one you need to move around. There's no obstacle. There's no
yeah,
greater thing at the end of that score. Whatever. Choose your favorite sports metaphor and sports situation. But the easy doesn't get you where you want to go. The hard does. The
yeah, yeah.
difficult does.
And it is. It's like, the Big Leap, the Gay Hendricks book. Like he talks about your
Yeah.
zone of excellence and your zone of genius. Zone of excellence, layups. Zone of genius, like that shit's demanding at a whole nother level, and that's why it's so fulfilling. And it's always just choosing ourselves at the deepest level and not sacrificing ourselves. And it's interesting that this metaphor came through earlier. The idea of when one of our challenges is relationships. And for those of us that are empathic, right? Like a lot of people listening to this are, whether they know it or not, relationships are almost always a big part of what we're sorting through in order to claim our power because we make these agreements with people about how we're going to show up and what we're offering them and how we're going to play along with their agenda. And part of claiming our power is going, oh, I have to get really clear about what feels good to me to play along with and what feels good to me not to play along with. And we're changing the rules. We're breaking the rules. And usually what happens then is people act out more when we break the rules. They may be, they look to gaslight, they accuse, they become like next level victims. They become, there's some need that gets created. They become angry, like whatever it is. Like there's this thing, whatever their technique is to try to enlist us in playing along still what, they unconsciously just do it, or sometimes consciously, but generally unconsciously, because their world starts to feel shaken up, their world starts to feel unsafe. And so they just kind of lose track of their, if they even, you see people behaving in what feels like being out of character, like, oh, I can't believe that they would act that way or do this. But there's like a desperateness because their foundation is being rocked by us no longer playing along. And so, it's funny that what I saw was, like driving along in your car and, like you got your steering wheel and your brakes, gas, gears, shifting, all of that. And, like having the kid in the back seat. I remember my daughter's having this, like little fake steering wheel and the fake brake, fake gas, and the little fake shifter. And like the kiddie controls. And when
Mm-hmm.
we allow that the people in our lives that are trying to control us, like we either let those be real controls or we let them be kiddie controls.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when they're acting the way they're acting, trying to get us to veer off of what we know is right for us, or holding our power, or being okay with what we're choosing for ourselves, like, can we let those be kiddie controls? Can we let them not be hooked into anything? Or do we still hold them as if they really are the steering wheel that steers us, the brakes that stop us, the shifter that downshifts us?
Yeah. 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 I grew up in central Jersey, Monmouth County, near Asbury Park, and I remember very explicitly going to the boardwalk in the summertime, and there was this little ride for 5-year-olds or however old I was, and it's this track, went in a figure eight or a circle, I don't know, and you sat in this little car, and you got to
Mhm.
drive this little car on the track that went in the same path every time, but you
No
get to
matter
do
where
this.
you steered, no matter what you hit the brake or the gas, nothing
No
happened.
matter where, no matter what. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we didn't even have braking gas. It just had the wheel, right? And I remember a moment where I realized I wasn't driving the car. And I was mad. I was mad at this ride
Mm.
because I wasn't actually doing the thing I thought I was doing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so like there's one piece of you in this situation that we're talking about. It's like don't let that little kid on that track drive the car. Also, don't even pretend that he is driving the car. You actually have the controls,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like don't make these are two totally different things. Don't pretend one's the other for
Hmm.
any reason, be it convenient or whatever. And
Hmm.
you got to know that this is your gas, this is your brake, this is your
Hmm.
steering wheel.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And
no,
show up
no
in your
matter
life.
what.
Show up
Yeah,
in your
no
life
matter
and get
what.
control of it, right? Because
That's right.
like, why does it feel, how do we get in those situations in the first place? There's a part of us that wasn't really sure that we wanted or trusted ourselves to be fully in control. And so we decided to play along with other people's demands for us. And it felt good, There's a lot of positive feelings in that. There's a lot of safety in that. But this wave of energy that's hitting people right now, that's hitting the planet right now, it really is just pushing people to be in their truth. And when we're in our truth, now we're in conflict because we were ignoring our truth before. And we were playing along in a way that didn't honor that. And so when our truth hits us in a more clear way, like now we have to go, am I going to betray myself or am I going to betray the people around me? But the truth is, like, in other words, am I going to be loyal? What am I loyal to? Am I loyal to me or am I loyal to the way people want me to be? And this isn't a betrayal, right? This is just us proceeding forward as we need to and knowing that some people aren't going to like it. And can we do it with kindness? But here's what happens too is that the moment we take massive offense at that, the moment we go like, I'm so tired of this, like I'm not going to be controlled like this. I'm like, we're not moving forward in a loving way, right? And of course we don't. And this isn't a judgment thing, but this is another, challenge yourself. Like, can I, as I move forward in this, can I go, well, of course they're going to see it this way. Of course they're going to want me to stay the same. But I need to let them have the kitty controls and me to have the real controls. And I need
Hmm.
to move forward. And I can
Hmm.
do it from a loving, kind way. I don't need to create this momentum and run people over. I don't need to knock people out of the way in order to do this. I need to just choose my path. And you remember that formula. I mean, we've talked about it several times on here before of like what is momentum is velocity um, times weight times mass, right? And so when we want to move forward through something, we're looking for the momentum to push through. People are resistant to it. And if we're just, if we don't feel like we can push past that, we don't have this momentum inside of ourselves to do it. And so when we really own ourselves and we stabilize inside of ourselves, it creates a lot of mass. And when something has a lot of mass, it can move slowly through something because it doesn't need the same velocity, the same speed to have that momentum. But
Mhm.
if we don't trust ourselves to really be solid and powerful inside of ourselves, the way that we do it is we change speed, we accelerate, and we run people over, and we knock people out of the way, and we do it with a lot of heat and fire, as opposed to just go, I'm really clear. I've decided my path. I know what's right for me, and I know what's not right for me, and I can move along in this steady pace. And we can't do that if we don't trust our own power, if we don't trust our own sense of self. And so what do? We accelerate and we just blow the roadblocks, right? We run people over and we come in hot. And that piece, that sense of responsibility and how we're claiming our power right now, because so many people are being called to do it. Are we doing it in a way where we start blowing up stuff and we start getting really angry and aggressive with people because that's the only thing we can feel like we can trust in order to get through the roadblocks? Or do we allow ourselves to just get really clear and really grounded into our power and show up with that and walk through the roadblocks?
Uh-huh. I kept imagining a glacier while you were chatting,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's
the
that feeling. Hopefully a little
the
faster than that though, right?
yeah, yeah,
Everybody,
for sure, for
we'll
sure.
put
Yeah,
it in
yeah, yeah, yeah.
human years instead of geological years, right?
Right. Yeah. And recognizing the impact that glaciers have made on the landscape, right?
Yeah, they shape
At
it.
the pace that at the pace that they moved. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's a really fascinating thing because the moment we decide something's wrong and we have bad guys and good guys. We have adversity and support. Like it's none of that. It's people going, well, this is a lot for all of us to deal with. And so what do we do when we choose what's right for us and then go, okay, I have the controls. Everybody else's are not connected. They can turn the wheel however they want, and it doesn't control where I go. But I also don't like since their controls aren't connected to me, I don't need to smack them out of the way or get angry with them or try to destroy them or whatever it is that people do because they're so scared, because they're destabilized. And so, it feels really relevant for us to be talking about this right now because I've been talking to so many people that are feeling this sense of like, oh, like I just got to do what's right for me and I can't play along anymore. Um, and it's powerful and it's scary and it's all these things. And so when we recognize what's happening, when we own it and get really clear for ourselves, and then we start to make decisions ahead of time or even in the moment from a grounded place that says, this is how I'm going to operate here. This is how I'm showing up in my truth and my integrity and my azimuth and my course that I'm setting for myself. And I'm going to take in what other people say, but their controls are not connected to mine. And so I may change course because I have a realization from engaging with somebody, but not, but they're not changing my course. I'm changing
Yeah.
it based on what I'm choosing. And
Mm-hmm.
that piece, this isn't like this arrogant, like I'm moving forward, I know what's right. Like we still have to engage and get clear and course correct and all those things. But we're being called in a big way right now to be the ones with the steering wheel in our hands and to not let other people's steering wheels be connected to our steering.
Yeah. And it could look very non-conventional, right? It can look like not your normal career path or normal lifestyle or right.
Yeah.
And people go, but then what happens after that job? Well, what happens after that company? Like there's this false adopted path that we tend to subscribe to frequently.
Yeah. How do I lock it in and just make this now safe for the rest of my life?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And
If
versus the idea of like, who do I need to become? What do I need to open up inside me to trust myself, to navigate and to keep myself alive, to keep my life alive? And I don't mean like not dead. I mean like alive, like full of life,
yeah,
vital,
yeah, worth
um,
living.
worth living. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's generally has a dynamic nature to it. And so we're not, and that's a great point that you're bringing up because I think some people are like, okay, how do I set my track? How do I find this thing to create the secure thing and just move forward with it, like versus what's lighting me up right now. And can I trust that? And do I need to worry about it being the rest of my life? Or, it'd be awesome if it is. And, if it isn't, it's because there's something else that is lighting me up even more. And so when we look at our careers, when we look at where we live, when we look at, whatever it is, like this, like everybody's on this path of personal development at a level that I don't think has really happened before in our lives. And real personal development, like real, like getting real with ourselves, not playing in, the non-ordinary reality and going like, oh, this is so, cool that there's more going on here than this 3D world. Like that's all been part of it. And that's a huge, ramp into what we're doing now. But now it's about getting really real and going, what's the life I'm going to live? How am I going to show up on this planet and what am I going to create?
Yeah.
And I can't play along anymore. I can't let it be inauthentic to me because before I didn't even realize it was inauthentic to me in a lot of ways. And now I can't not see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that requires something different for me because I know if I continue down a path that's not for me, like my aliveness, my creativity, that enthusiasm for life just
Yeah.
and
Dampens.
that's not what we're doing here. I mean, this is
Yeah.
such an exciting, dynamic time, and it only comes from being true to our calling and our callings, rather
Mm-hmm.
than being true to our stability, our security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whew.
Did we cover it for today? I think we covered it for today.
I think we did. I think that's I mean, it's a very simple point, right? It's very simple.
Yeah.
There's a wave of energy hitting us all right now that's asking us to get really clear about who we are and what we want. And when I say asking us, it's like kind of putting our nose in it. And we can try to pretend that that's not what's happening. We can try to pretend that we're still okay to play along. Um, but it comes at such a cost, at
Yeah.
such a cost. And when we let other people control where we're going based on their response to what we want for ourselves, um, it's just kind of not available anymore.
Yeah.
And so if we stay in that struggle, we struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an emotional cost by not moving forward, and moving forward doesn't mean easy, like we covered.
Yeah.
It's frequently difficult.
Mm-hmm, very.
And that's where it's the opportunity to build resistance or resilience and
Mm-hmm,
character and those things while it is still hard, and then it gets easier, then it gets hard and
mm-hmm, yeah.
keeps on going. But you don't feel like you're emotionally dampened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is aliveness. It's
Yeah.
vitality. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no mistake. So many people are seeking all this longevity stuff now and this vitality and this optimal health stuff. It's all
Yeah.
also optimal life stuff.
Yeah. It's
It
true.
doesn't happen in a situation that asks you to deaden yourself.
No.
Crazy, great stuff, man. This
Mhm.
it's fun picking up on these energetic themes that are going on, and I hope for people it's really helpful to go, oh, okay, this when I plug in this template of what's happening energetically into my life, like it makes sense now. And so, am I going to utilize these energies and move forward in my life, or am I going to just get that much more uncomfortable because there's this opportunity that I'm not taking
Yeah.
and I'm not playing along with it?
Yeah. So if you're like, oh shit, things have been hard, possibly good for you.
Yeah, yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, when things are not easy, but they're sustainable. We sustain them, and when things are unsustainable, things are just not okay. We make changes, and that's what's happening now. We're in this time on the planet where things are just not okay, and so change is the only option, and that can be really exciting unless we don't want it to be. Yeah. Awesome. Well, great conversation, Nick, as always, and thanks so much for listening. We'll see you all next week. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.